Hi, I'm Jay Bowman, and thank you for the opportunity to share with you some of the takeaways for our forecast for construction spending for the second quarter of 2022. As we look forward towards the end of the year, we expect to end up with total construction about 7%. That's compared to about up 8% for 2021. With that positive demand, strong backlogs, that's probably understandable. But also when you think about what's driving a lot of that, residential construction is actually up about 12%. And part of that 12% growth is really driven by the continued single-family home building as well as homeowners or home buyers that have locked in rates that might be expiring soon and trying to purchase before they expire and before prices go up. Non-residential building construction by comparison only up 1%. However, that's sort of a change in trajectory as well, where it was down 5% in 2021. And then non-building structures looks to be up about 7% for 2022. And that's really because of some of the monies that were made available through the IIJA that start to come online really by the end of the year. So two things. One, why should we be positive about the outlook given some of the things in the news? And then also, how should we be thinking about it perhaps from a different perspective? Well, let's start with the positive. Two things I would point out. The first being the Chicago Fed's National Activity Index. For the 3-month moving average for February, their latest number, is still in the positive territory, approximately 0.35, but it's down a little bit from where it was in January. Likewise, if you look specifically at the construction industry, and you consider our non-residential construction index, or NRCI, is at 53.8. That's down 1 point from the last quarter, but suggests sort of optimism about construction spending and that we're still in an expansion period. But what about that second point? What about inflation? So should an inflation rate, or CPI, of roughly 7.9% or 8% continue for the next 12 months, it essentially erases all of those gains that we would see from a 7% increase in construction spending. Now, when we think about construction specifically, we've actually seen higher increases. We've seen double-digit increases in things like aluminum, HDPE, and PVC, and even triple-digit increases in steel. Therefore, the theme for 2022 could be spending more for less. And so when we look at construction spending now by segment, we also have to think about these opportunities by some of the subcomponents. So let's think about 3 of these. So you have commercial, office, and educational, which are slightly below sort of that median line of 5.4%. Office may be, not the strongest growth, but data centers are a part of that. And that's one of the strongest growth segments that we see going forward. Likewise in commercial, if we're talking about traditional brick and mortar retail, that's down. But distribution centers continue to grow as well. And then education, you have to think about the difference between K-12 growth, where we're seeing that, particularly where there's movement of people, versus higher education. But I think another way for you to think about this is in terms of what is new economy versus old economy. So if we're thinking about where growth opportunities should persist over the next several years, look for those that represent the new economy. So what are 2 things that we can take away from this today? Well, one, if we think about that inflation and that 7.9%, one thing is to work with your accountant or your CFO to come up with contingencies should inflation continue for what that may look like if it were to sustain for another year or 2 years. The second thing being that now's the time to consider what it takes to reduce some of the risk. And talking with any of our bankers or consultants can help you really understand how your organization sits today. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to share with you just some of the takeaways from our second quarter forecast for 2022. I encourage you to download the full report at our website, www.fmicorp.com.